Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he and him. And today I will be your GM as we play Vow of the Knight-Aspirants by Alexi Sargent of Cloven Pine Games. Alexi, why don't you introduce yourself? And then we'll go around here.
Sure. So I'm Alexi, he, him, and you can follow all my gaming endeavors under the handle Cloven Pine Games. I'm excited to be here playing the finale of this series.
Awesome. Robbie, go for it.
My name is Robbie. I use he, him pronouns, and I hail from the Central Florida area.
Fantastic. Steven.
Yeah, hey there. I am Steven, he, they. I'm probably not telling people what area I'm from, but I'm.
You're a little hard to hear.
Oh, right. There we go. That should be better. Hey there, I am Steven, he, they.
Ian, last but not least.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian. I use he, him pronouns, and I hail from the Kings Mountain, Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Wonderful. All right. Tonight, we will be using some safety tools. Those include the X card, which let anyone say X or X card, or go like this, or type X in our chat, or hit the X card button on our, just so many options on our dice roller. And any content will be excised at any time for any reason with no justification required. We're also using some of Bo Yeager's Sheldon script change tools. Those include Rewind, which lets you rewind back to any point in the game previous where we are and sort of erase the content from the fiction that happened in between them there. Again, no justification required. You can also hit pause at any time to say, hey, I just need a quick breather, or can we talk about this, please? Just hit pause, and then we're ready to keep going. We can hit play again. And then fast forward lets you skip ahead past any content that we can all agree will happen in the fiction, but that we don't want to put the camera on. The example I like to give is a beloved NPC might die. We can all agree this is what happened, but we don't want to sort of dwell on the moment of their death, so we'll fast forward past it and mourn their loss as we proceed in the story. Then we are using lines and veils. We have a tab in our character keeper for lines and veils. Lines are things that will never appear in our game, in our fiction. Veils are things that can appear in the fiction, but we won't put the camera directly on them. As in an old movie, a couple might kiss and then cut away, open new scene on the two of them in bed smoking cigarettes. Everyone knows what happened, but a veil was cast over it. Does anybody have any questions about safety? Oh, fantastic. All right. So let's meet our characters now. And we'll just go left to right across the character keeper. So first is you, Alexi. You know, a little introduction to your character. Any highlights you want to share? And if you took an advance at the end of last session, tell us what advance you took.
All right. So I am playing Olwen using the two playbooks, the Owl and the Plume. She is a squire who her background is growing up as the ward of this monastery, the monastery of Darrow. And then at some point, she proved her worth using guile and valor against Seathland raiders, and therefore got the opportunity to go forth from the monastery and be squire to a knight, learn the ways of knighthood, which is something she is excited about because she idolizes Saint Johanna, the maiden knight. Now, when we pick up with her in this series, she's headed back home, this time on a quest, because she and her fellow squires are going in the direction of Darrow as they're starting off on their quest to find the mysterious Tower Perilous. Last we saw, she had led her friends to ambush a group of Seathlanders. I took an advance. Where I exchanged a temperament heart trigger for an aspiration heart trigger, and also got a +1 to a stat as part of that. So I now have the heart trigger tell someone how they fit into a story, and I took my +1 to ingenuity.
Really doubling down on ingenuity. Love it. Love it.
I mean, it's part of what my playbook does.
Stephen, would you like to tell us about Caradoc?
Yes. I am playing Caradoc. Sometimes he, sometimes she. Caradoc is there's a lot there. Caradoc is heir to Scion to Heretics. There was most of my family were forced into hiding or exile, died. I was raised as a ward of the crown. The king is my kind of brother. Also the knight I serve. And yeah, I'm playing the Serpent and the Chalice. I took as my advance, no matter the cost, once per session. When I am trying to right a grievous wrong, I can mark a tarnish to take an automatic 12+ rather than rolling the dice.
Love it. Love it so much. Ian, why don't you tell us about Galen?
Yeah, Galen is a young man who is experiencing a sort of deepening contradiction. He has the playbooks, the Jackdaw, and I think it's the Anvil. Is that right? Meaning that he is a sort of a trickster and a joker, and provides some of the kind of comic relief in our party, and also is, I would say, a dab hand at kind of like coming up with strange works of engineering and arcane trickery. Not exactly magic. He's not a magician, but he can sort of like, he knows a couple of tricks here and there. Both of those things, I think, are used to better or worse effect to cover his pretty significant misgivings about becoming a knight. And maybe we'll see how that bears out as we get closer to the tower.
Amazing. Very exciting. You didn't take an advance, right?
Not quite. I'm at 4 of 5.
All right, so we'll try and get you that last notch so you can have a fun, exciting advance situation before the end of the session. And Robbie, why don't you tell us about Marion?
I'm playing Marion using the playbooks, the Foal and the Hourglass. Marion grew up in a somewhat wealthy merchant family, but was somebody who the parents were not, well, seemed to possibly be embarrassed by her, or at least feared some type of embarrassment that she might cause. Because they had acquired wealth, they saw an opportunity to basically pawn her off on a knight named Sir Fulk, who they have given a considerable amount to in order to take Marion under his wing and send her on the way to knighthood. Fulk hasn't really been particularly into the task, but I guess has been, content to give some training to Marion and take a lot of money from Marion's parents, has liked that exchange. And yeah, I think Marion is really looking forward to this quest, in part because if this quest results in her achieving some knighthood, that maybe she doesn't have to bear Sir Fulk so much anymore, get some more kind of independence from that. And oh, I did take an advance. I am replacing I'm taking this how is it termed? Taking the replace a temperament heart with an aspiration heart trigger. So I'm taking the trigger, deliver a prophetic warning, and replacing the impatience with ally trigger. So I'm getting rid of the trigger of showing impatience to an ally and instead replacing that with deliver a prophetic warning. And then I'm adding another point to valor. So I'll have 2 courtesy and 2 valor at this point.
Sounds most excellent. Super excited. So yeah. So when we last saw you, as Olwen said, you had returned. You had managed to capture a group of Seathlander scouts who were I think there was about 6 of them. I said who were camped around a fire. You took their food, you shared it with them, but they're held captive, and you sort of spent the night. I don't want to dwell on that too much. It's now the next morning, and we had said that Marion, you wanted to take your time to lock eyes with someone and receive a dramatic prophecy of their future, correct? So let me describe. So one of them is clearly the leader. I think you can tell. They wear gray leathers. They're lightly armed. Some with short swords. Some with kind of hand axes. We haven't determined the season, have we? No, we said it was spring. I'm trying to remember or winter. We did determine the season when you went out on the hunt, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was like early spring.
Early spring,
still with like a chill in the air.
Yeah. So I think they have not. I think they're wearing kind of like kind of light light cloaks or capes, but that have sort of a trim of a wolf fur, of gray fur. And I think his has slightly more fur, right? His arms are slightly better. It's not like a huge difference. I think you could also sort of see he was the one who was like telling, remember there was a distraction, right? And so he was the one who was giving the orders, who you could tell was sort of like pointing out. So there's that one. I'm going to give you names. That's Bjorn. He has sort of salt and pepper, or actually, yeah, salt and pepper. Well, red and gray beard, darker hair. Also with gray in it. There is we can put those in the NPC tab. Also, there is a younger woman. Probably around your age. I would say so, late teens. Her name, her name is Astrid. And she's been like intermittently through the night. You've been watching. She's been like struggling with her bonds. And then she'll like you see like at one point during the night she was like fighting, and she just like was exhausted. That she woke up and she starts you can see her trying to kind of get loose. There is I was gonna give you. I said there were 6. Here's 3, and then if there's someone else that none of these people seem interesting to you, Marion, we can name some more. Here's one named Bo. He, him. Bo is a young man, probably in his early 20s, blonde hair, stubbly, probably would have been clean shaven, but it's been a few days, right? Out on the trail, and yeah. So those are three of them. The other three are it's two men and another woman, ranging in age from their early 20s through till probably around 40. And we can name them if any of those, if you'd like to find someone else to look at.
Yeah, so I think the one that would intrigue Marion the most would be Astrid.
Sure.
I think being the same age, and recognizing her kind of eagerness to get out of her bonds. I think Marion would approach her, kneel down next to her. Do we know whether they understand us? I mean, do they speak a foreign tongue, or are they?
At the very least, the only one who's spoken to you so far is Bjorn, and it's been very, very, very minimal, right? Just like, I'm not going to say it's like name, rank, and serial number, but it's like the bare minimum of communication required to, to function under the very sort of like, the circumstances that you set up. So he'll talk to you about like the food that you're giving, but there's no conversation. Like, will not respond to conversational overtures, right? Has not like, I think you have not yet tried to seriously interrogate them yet. That's sort of how we've set this up. So, we can play out that scene and see how that goes. But like the baseline here is that like they're not cooperative really, except in as much as they see that you are not trying to do them any additional harm, and so they will, they won't like fight you when you try to do nice things for them.
Right.
So you don't know if the other ones understand. Bjorn definitely does. He has a slight accent.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that Marion will approach Astrid, as Astrid is trying to work at her bonds, and say, clearly you have important business on this land. You probably should reserve your energy for when it might actually be useful to you.
Yeah. When she sees you approaching, she immediately stops struggling. She's not trying to hide it exactly, but she also knows that like if she does manage to get free in that moment while you're watching her, it's not going to do her much good. And she just glares at you with unadulterated hatred, just like staring at you.
Yeah, and so I think Marion will, she's going to return the gaze and look into her eyes, but Marion's expression is not going to be one of anger, but I think obviously kind of scrutiny, and curiosity, more than some kind of hatred. And as she's kind of staring at the kind of glaring eyes, will say, I don't understand your your intense hatred of me. You are the one who has come to this land. It's I would be much more understanding if we were the ones who had stepped into Seathland.
So have you ever experienced this kind of vision before?
I think
Like
not.
from eye contact, from
I don't think intensely I have experienced it. I think I've had kind of glimmers when I've done it. I think
right.
I've had conversations with Wolf Guild about this, but yeah, I don't think I've had any real.
Have you ever like felt anything, or it's just like a glimmer of like is visual sight? Like what's the?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of vague glimmerings, very shadowy, that are there and then are gone. And you know, and I've struggled to kind of, you know, even provide enough focus on them to get much utility out of them.
Got it. Okay. So you for like it's really just like 4 seconds. It is so fast, but all of a sudden your senses are overcome um by like a sensorium that is not around you presently, right? Suddenly it's pitch dark. It's not pitch dark, sorry. Suddenly it is you're in dim light. You hear the sound of screaming. um you smell blood and leather and sweat and steel. um uh and your field of vision is filled basically with Astrid. You can she is so close in front of you, even closer than she is in real life. You know, it's almost like, you know, if this was a TV show, right, we'd have your point of view shot of her looking at you, of her looking at you, glaring in hatred from your point of view, right? Cut to her point of view of you looking back, and then we cut back to your point of view, except new light, new sound, and the camera is like zooming in on her face, so it's like filling the right. And you hear a thunk, and she collapses, bleeding from the head. And that's it. 4 seconds of her violent death. You are just barely able to see, you know, in the dim light behind her as she collapses, a tall stone, like the stone wall of some kind of a fortified building.
All right, and when the vision ceases, she's still just glaring at me.
Yeah, she doesn't. I mean, I think it happened so quickly. She doesn't even. Maybe I don't know if you like, you know, how do you react? I guess is the question. Until she sees how you react, she's just glaring in hate.
Yeah, I think Marion's reaction is, I mean, it is one of sorrow for her, and I think, you know, her face will turn soft, and, you know, she will, continuing to stare at Astrid, will say, I know that if you continue down this path, the outcome for you is bleak. Oh, you're muted.
She spits in your face.
Yeah, and I think Marion will back away. She's not going to return that.
Yeah, and I think as she's doing it, Bjorn kind of leans down. Like I'm picturing them sort of like, you know, bound together, sort of like back to back, maybe to a tree or something like that. And Bjorn's able to kind of like lean around and sort of like, you know, mutter or whisper something in their language, to her, and she just like looks at him sullenly, but You know, like there's clearly some kind of reprimand there, but you don't know what it was, or, you know, is he telling her they're being kind to us, no need to antagonize them, or is he telling her bide your time, we'll get them later? You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with that, Marion will turn. I'll turn to Caradoc and say to Caradoc, I imagine Caradoc's a few steps away, and Marion will say to walk up to him and what would you be right now as we're
Yeah, I'm fine.
Caradoc?
Him, sure. Let's go with
Okay. And say, I've had a most powerful, brief but powerful vision, and at least for that one, pointing at Astrid, at least for that one, there is a very bloody and violent end in store if she continues on the way she is currently going.
I nod and I say, but I understand. But her choices and the consequences of them are her burden to bear. You told her, yes.
I did. I mean, it seems, granted, why should she have any trust or faith that what I speak would be the truth? But it does seem to me that when an outcome of one set of choices is only going to lead to senseless tragedy, that one should at least reevaluate, consider altering one's course.
Oh boy, I'm let me just, yeah, I'll what is there though? Yeah, I might as well. I nod, and it can be easy to think that changing one's past is simply a matter of, or changing one's course is simply a matter of making a choice. But there are wounds there are wounds and ills here at work that extend beyond the present moment. We should keep that in mind when we deal with them. I am going to impart a lesson here. I'll mark 2 heart for it. The first step towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds. You can accept that lesson or not, or resist it. But I'm spending 2 heart to impart it.
So the first step towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds.
Yeah. Seems like it's relevant to the situation you're describing.
Yeah. will I want to resist this?
Yeah, you can resist it. I think you roll -2 in this case.
Yeah,
But
you
you
roll.
can always use a lesson to give yourself advantage or something like that.
Yes. You roll minus the number of hearts spent.
Yeah, because yeah, I don't know that I need to resist that. So I'll go on and accept it, and and then I mark a notch.
2 notches, I believe.
Okay.
One for each of the hearts spent.
Okay.
I think watching this exchange, Bjorn says, "You seem unusually wise for somebody so young." It's directed at Caradoc, but
And who says that?
Bjorn, the sort of leader, it seems, of the Seathlanders.
Who's the only one who's spoken so far?
Yeah, the only one who has well, the only I think Astrid was muttering back to him, right? But the only one who's spoken, who you've heard speaking your language.
Yeah.
He speaks it well, to be clear, right? Like I said, a very slight accent.
Yeah. Oh, Stephen, you're muted.
I do say if that's the case, perhaps we can talk. I do not know what has brought you here, but we seek the Tower Perilous and to avert a greater tragedy that may come for both our peoples. Would you take that step with me and aid us? I am marking my lesson. The past is blood and cinders. The future is yet unwritten.
Sure.
And I'm trying to
beseech a boon.
Yeah, beseech a boon.
So what are you offering in return?
Okay. I mean, I'm offering that the promise that I'm not just trying to help us. I'm trying to prevent, because it does say whether it's simple gratitude or something more. I'm offering I'm not.
I guess I just feel like the gratitude of someone who had who has you tied up.
Then in that
I mean, it might be something. I would like to have a little bit sharper. Is your gratitude is meaningful because if I'm happy with you, things are more likely to turn out well, even if I'm not letting you free right now. You know what I mean?
So let me throw in something here, right? Someone can be bad cop, right? And Olwen's kind of willing to be bad cop, given that it's Seathlanders, right? They attacked her monastery in the past. She's not totally sympathetic with them, right? So if you want to be holding back one of your allies who looked ready to get rougher with the prisoners, I can throw in that there, right?
And then depending on the role, that could turn into a lend your aid if you need the boost.
Sure.
So what's that look like? So you're saying, we can do this thing, it'll be good for all of us. Why are you here?
Maybe as Caradoc says that, Olwen stomps over and it's what? You don't need to negotiate with them. There are prisoners. There are enemies. I don't know what you're doing here, right? And hand on the hilt, glaring at them a little bit, to just add the sense of, add a sense of danger. We'll see, how much we need to follow up on that. I don't know.
Yeah. And Bjorn is looking at the two of you, kind of assessing. It's and I think this is this, and what you want is an answer, right, to this question. Presumably, that's the boon.
Yeah, I wanted to know, what about the Tower Perilous, what he knows about it.
Yeah, sure. So go ahead and roll plus courtesy.
Yeah, and I have an advantage here from invoking
Yes,
my lesson.
advantage from your lesson. Yes.
Well, and I think my courtesy is not great, but that's why I wanted
0.
the advantage. Okay. Dice 4. Let's see here. That
And that
is
is
a
a
9.
9. So
I'll
spend the
spend
heart.
the heart. I'll spend the heart. Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Amazing.
Olwen's, I think Olwen's, like genuinely a little more anti-Seathlander here, but also playing it up since it, I think she gets on some level that this is helpful to Caradoc to have someone being the the bad cop.
Yeah. So yeah. So Bjorn looks at you both and says, "What? Your king obviously keeps you in the dark. The Tower Perilous, its forces have waylaid us, but drive us here, seeking safety, we felt, there's it's the skeletal forces of the Tower Perilous threaten to overrun us in Seathland.
You expect us to believe that fairy tale?
And they wear the uniform. And he, just to be clear, he means uniform in a loose sense, not like a specific uniform, but like the clothes,
like the dress.
Yeah, the dress, right, of Cassidy.
Wait, is that us?
You're Cassidy, yeah.
Sorry.
Cassidy, yeah, that's our our kingdom. Cassidy.
Yeah, I was just forgetting what the name of our kingdom was because we use it so rarely.
I assume your king was tired of our raiding, and so instead decided to just send these fell forces, ally with the tower. But we want to, so we come here. If the dead overrun our lands, then we will pitch our tent on yours.
But you bite your tongue, Seathlander. King Hadithar has no truck with such monstrosities. And I look around to my fellow squires for support on this.
I've told you what I know. So what are you going to do with us? You can end us now. You can let us free. Or what? March us back to your castle to be interrogated by your king's torturers. I've told you all I know. We know I'm not important enough to know any secrets that would help you.
And so I just want to clarify. So the Tower Perilous is a force that's driving his people out of their land.
Yeah, he's saying there are undead who he associates with the Tower Perilous, who he believes is in league with the monarchy of Castany, perhaps in revenge, perhaps unclear, for raiding, to drive the Seathlanders from their lands, to kill them, to hurt them. Yeah. I mean, anyone can answer that question, right? That doesn't have to be Caradoc or Olwen, right?
Olwen's just visibly seething, but I'm happy.
Yeah, what will you do with us?
In the background of this discussion, Galen has been playing dice with one of the maybe a few of the tied up Seathlanders. You can roll dice if you have your hands tied.
I think when Bjorn started talking, they stopped and started, and it looks like they're listening, actually. So that's information, I guess. Or they're at the very least paying attention to what's going on.
I think Galen too. Galen is sort of like looking up. He's like, squatted on his heels in the sort of dirt of the campsite and is like looking up at what is going on. And it's just like it's like very bemused by how heated everyone is getting about this.
I think as you start laughing, Bo, who's one of the two that you've been dicing with, like looks at you with disgust.
Just
right?
like
This is obviously no laughing matter for him.
I'm gonna quietly slide him some of the acorns that we've been betting with a sort of apologetic look on my face.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about how he communicates to you. And there may be a lesson here now, actually. Before that, I don't know that there was. But I think right now that he's right, I try to think how he communicates to you. I think he actually talks. I think he says in a low voice, right? While Bjorn and Owen and Caradoc are having their right, he says a very thick accent, right? Unlike Bjorn, but comprehensible, right? He says to you, he says to you, he says, he says, he says, playing dice for acorns to pass the time is one thing, but playing dice with people's lives is quite another. And I think the lesson is don't play dice with people's lives.
No, for the first time, I will accept. I'll accept the lesson freely.
Sure. Yeah. So take that as a temporary lesson and mark a notch, which gets you your advance.
I will fix him with my most earnest gaze and say, "Bo, my darling, your life is priceless."
He grimaces. Yeah, so Bjorn is still waiting for an answer from somebody now, right? I think
We
that
need to confer, right?
Yeah,
like
confer.
Owen like declares and like gestures for the squires to like huddle together.
I mean, can I ask one question before we like huddle together to confer? Because I do just want to know before we like start talking like the side. Are there any here that know? It depends. Are there any here that know of a way to the Tower Perilous? Because I just feel like I want to get a yes or no to this before we start going into theoretical.
Yeah, I think what Bjorn says is I know nothing for certain. The legend is that it is no particular destination. It is but a journey. But I don't understand riddles.
Helpful. Come, we must confer.
Okay.
Whatever lies these Seathlanders are telling about our king and our realm, we certainly can't let them go. And we need to decide what we do with them next. The monastery might have places to hold them, but it's not like it's full of warriors, right? So there's a risk in bringing them there. But if we go all the way back to the castle, that's a longer way away from here. More time for something to go wrong transporting prisoners.
It seems to me that if these Seathlanders speak the truth and our interests are aligned. Our goal is the tower.
But why do we think they speak the truth? They'd have every reason to try to deceive us, trick us, or pull off some silly stunt to escape.
In the matter of silly stunts, Holden, I assure you I'm unmatched.
He laughs a little in spite of herself. Marion, what do you think? You were talking to one of them. What should we do?
Well, I agree that from what I have gathered, that both of us, both those serving King Hadithar and the Seathlanders, may indeed be facing a common enemy, but the problem is that even if that is actually the case, the Seathlanders see things differently. They see the skeletal forces as pouring from our kingdom. I mean, the trick is to get them to perhaps realize that it may be our common interest to establish at least some level of trust.
You think these abominations they speak of are real, Marianne?
I know them to be real. While you were talking, I saw another vision. And the vision had us at the throats of the Seathlanders spilling blood. And it then had skeletons grinning and rising from the earth who were nourished by that blood. I'm using my aspiration move here. I'm giving a prophetic warning.
Can I ask, out of character, did you really have that vision, or are you coming up with this now to like just bolster your case?
I don't think the movie audience would quite know. But I think
Great. So we don't know.
Yeah, but I think Marion is delivering it with great seriousness.
Okay.
Right? That
Yeah.
I mean, she's intent on this idea that and maybe influenced by the actual vision she saw of Astrid getting her skull cleaved and toppling over.
Just a reminder. I don't know if you communicated, but Caradoc did have a vision of or a conversation about the dead rising and coming at the hands of the Tower Perilous.
Right. Who was that from?
Your grandmother. Right.
Was that
you were-
during the vigil, during the Caradoc?
No,
No,
when
that
you
was
were-
even before. When
you
we
were-
were
you were
in the
in-
woods, hunting the questing
Perilous,
beast.
the questing beast. Yeah,
You were
okay.
investigating a place touched by darkness.
Nice. I think so. Olwen will like take in what Marion has said and say, all right, if you're saying you believe in these terrible things, then I think we should take them to the monastery despite the danger, because in the great library at the monastery of Darrow there might be more answers about what these unquiet bones are and how we could defeat them, undo this evil, and maybe even have peace with the Seathlanders. He's much less
Yeah, and
enthusiastic about that last part.
I put a hand on your shoulder and I say, I understand that I know how much I know how difficult this is. I know that I'm asking a lot from you, Alwyn, in doing this. I know that I disagree, but I do trust your judgment, Alwyn. And I know that I do trust that. Well, I know that we must trust them for now. I know that our trust should only go so far. I know that your wisdom I trust as much as Marion's visions. I am trying to offer encouragement here.
I'm
that's
up
fine.
to I'm up to hear you. I'm up to see what the dice say.
If that's cool with you, Jesse, I just wanted to check.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and mark my courtesy, or not my courtesy, my abandon trigger. I can offer encouragement to 2 people at once.
Oh, nice.
And I'm trying to offer it to both. Like, I was trying to figure out a way. Galen hasn't been saying much, so I was trying to think of a way to actually help you with all of your tarnishes.
All my business.
Yeah. But I'm trying to offer encouragement, I guess, this time to Alwyn and Marion.
I'm confused. Can we just take a step back to the mechanics a second? Right. So did you already have that marked and now you're doing the ability?
I highlight it and then I mark it.
Right. So you highlighted it before when you offered entarnishment and clear the tarnish. And then once it's highlighted, you could check it off to use it. So that's what happened.
Yeah, it was already highlighted and now I'm marking it.
Amazing.
This is one of the ones it's slightly awkward in Google Sheets. This is actually easier on paper when you can.
Yeah. I understand. I didn't realize it had been highlighted already. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
This was way back in the first session. I highlighted and
awesome.
I have not gotten a chance to use it as all.
This is fun.
So you're targeting me, and you said you were also targeting Marion?
Yeah.
Poor Galen.
I mean,
Galen has a lot of tarnishes.
I know, but like Galen wasn't saying a lot in this conversation.
First step towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds, and he wasn't doing it.
All right, yeah, Marion doesn't have a tarnish, but that's fine. There's other things that can encouragement.
We can get hard out of this, right?
Yep.
Or actually advantage. There's a couple of different things we can get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm actually I will mark the first. No, I'm acting without doubt, and you'll never know regret. I'm like both of you offer things. We don't need to doubt like either of you is what I'm saying.
Amazing.
So I'm gonna roll 3d6. Let's see what I get here. So let's see, that's a 5, but fortunately, I think hopefully. No, that's just a 6. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so one of us could spend a heart to push that up, and then ultimately we'll probably get enough from it to make that worthwhile. Or we could let it be a miss. That's that's always a possibility.
Does someone want or Marion could ask if they want your help and then spend 1 foresight to declare this is them merely a victim of misfortune. I don't know if you want to use it for this, but you could.
I mean, if we're doing that, we have to wait and see what the misfortune. We have to kind of, hang out and see some of the consequences of the miss starting.
So does someone want to help, or do we want to see what the consequence is?
I'll offer a heart here.
Oh.
Oh yeah, how do you help? I love that. That's cool.
Just remind me the way that you phrased the sort of last encouragement, Caradoc.
Like that like both Marion's prophecy and Alwyn's wisdom offer important things in this quest to us.
I'm trying to think about how I would like underwrite that a little bit, you know. I honestly think that I'm just like putting a hand on both of your shoulders as we are standing here in this little huddle. This is the moment where Galen would say something about the wisdom of Olwen getting her stuck in the mud, you know, like, and I'm not taking that. I'm not taking the bait.
This is great. You're helping by, pointedly refraining from cracking a joke that would undercut the moment.
It's so hard. It's so hard to keep
I
myself
love
from
it.
doing this.
So
Amazing. Pushing it up to a 7.
Push it up to a 7.
Up to 7.
So each of you pick one from below.
Yeah. And you can pick different things.
Yeah. Share a moment of comfort. So clear tarnish, you gain a heart. Each of us takes advantage on our next move. I imagine that's the 2, not all 3 under these circumstances.
Yeah, I think basically we treat this as
like
if the move.
I have one thing with both of the
yeah. And then reject would show my hand. You could ask a question and get an honest answer. So let's start with Olwen, and then we'll go to Marion.
I'm gonna take we help each other muster courage. So I think like she like gives a big nod and then says, "Thank you. It's good to have valiant and clever allies in a time of uncertainty. I think we will prevail together."
And Marion, which do you choose?
I think I'll share the moment of comfort.
So
gain a heart.
We'll gain a heart. And are you going to clear a tarnish or gain a heart, Caradoc?
I'm gonna clear a tarnish. I'll clear. I'll clear my. Oh, I'm trying to think here. I guess I want to clear. I'll clear my wrath, sure.
Oh, that's the one that you want advantage in when you roll it. It's a -1. That's just funny to me.
Oh no, you're right. I was thinking that. No, I'll clear my folly.
Be tactical about it. Cool.
No,
right.
I was being tactical. I was being tactical already.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. So the result of the conversation there, I know, is to bring them. I didn't hear anyone disagree with Olwen. So we're going to bring them back to the monastery. Is that the consensus?
I think that makes sense.
We're going to bring captive Seathlanders to the monastery, and then work out next steps from there. But Olwen thinks the monastery will have knowledge that will be useful.
Yeah. So it's 10 after now. Let's take our first break, and then I think we'll start the next scene at the monastery door. We'll say at some point you picked up your horses from the ranger, the forester. Yeah. So come back at 20 after, and we'll have that scene.
Sounds good.
Okay, give Alexi one more minute.
Jesse,
Yes.
I got my PDF copy of His Majesty the Worm, and I opened the book and I thought, this is a Jesse Abelman book right here.
My hard copy came today.
Hell yeah.
His Majesty the Worm,
Mm-hmm.
by Josh McCrowell. I even picked up a classic tarot deck to use with it.
Amazing.
It's a dungeon crawling game that uses tarot as its like for a randomizer, and also for to sort of like generate the dungeon. And there's like, it's very procedurally oriented. It looks complicated for me. I don't like games with that many rules. That's my one concern. It's a very chunky looking book. Anyways, yes, I'm very excited to read it and maybe to play it once I read it. Anyways,
well, keep me in mind.
Yeah, I will definitely. But everybody is here, so I think just to like let's get ourselves to this is our last session. Let's get ourselves to the point of like excitement. Okay. So as you before you're on the road, with your horses, and however you're bringing the prisoners, and you see the walls of the monastery rise up in front of you above the trees before you get through the trees and break into the clearing near where the monastery is. Obviously, when you recognize it right away because it is your home, or where you're from originally anyway, or where you last lived. And
I think she's still working out. Does she think it's of it as her home? But it is her past.
Yes, her past. And Marion, in the full daylight, that the pattern of stones on that wall you recognize immediately, from your vision. And you approach, and the gate opens, and you're greeted by by an NPC whose name is in the tab. Her name is Sister Cuthberta. Along with we have it named the abbess of this monastery.
Mother Miriam, the abbess, who you expect to greet you with excitement and joy, Owen, but instead you hear the sharp voice of Mother Miriam saying, "Inside now, move! The raiders have arrived." And you hear the horn of the small guards. This is very familiar to you, Owen, from of course when you fought off a Seathlander raider the last time. Bring them in now. And you're sort of like rushed in as the gate slams and is blocked behind you. I think Mother Miriam looks at all of you and says, "Oh, thank goodness you've got hostages. Maybe there is a negotiation that can be had. We won't have to fight them off. There's too many this time. They seem desperate. All this, they've seemed desperate. Since they got here." Mother Abbess, how many are there? When did this start?
Who's in charge? I mean, I can come up with someone if you don't have someone off the top of your head. But like I imagine there's not much of a like a garrison. There's probably like a couple of old guards or whatever. But there's somebody who's in charge of defenses, such as they are, because they do get Seathlander raids occasionally, right?
Let's say there's Matthias, the man at arms, who has this task here.
Yeah. So Matthias says, we don't know for sure because they're mostly under the cover of the trees, which we can't see from the walls. But somewhere between 20 and 50 would be our guess.
My fellow squires are doughty and stout-hearted, but that does indeed sound like long odds to fight them off.
Well, I think what's her name? Not Mother Miriam.
Sister Cuthberta?
Sister Cuthberta, yes, says to all of you, not just to Olwen, right? This is very much what he says. And in fact, this is probably as much to Mother Miriam as it is to any of you. Well, the king and the wizard Kestrel have sent you to take part in to lead the defense of our home. So what would we have you do? What would you have us do? And you see, Matthias is looking almost like he's going to object, and Sister Cuthberta shoots him a no, not yet. Because that is in fact what you were sent here for.
That's true.
And
yeah, Olwen draws herself up, trying to seem very grown up and in control of things, which is not always how she felt when here before. And she says, "My fellow squires and I will need a moment to strategize, but in the meantime, we should take these Seathland prisoners somewhere secure. Is the wine cellar still a good place where they could be kept safely under lock and key?"
I think Matthias says yes, and he hollers Patricia, and another guard comes and sort of. You can see that Astrid looks like she's going to make a move, thinking about making a move, and Bjorn shoots her a glare. We're in here. What do you overpower Patricia? What then? So they're walked away. But Bjorn, I think as they leave, Bjorn says, our comrades will free us. I hope you come up with a way to mitigate he doesn't use the word mitigate, but right, to prevent the harm that might come as they do so. Yeah, so Matthias, I don't think Matthias is going to leave you folks alone, right? He's in charge. You might be making a plan, right? But he's there to state his opinion and maybe to judge you.
Great, good to have people judging us.
But I think Matthias says, well, the king sent you green squires, put you in charge. Let's hear what let's hear what you have to say. I think pointedly, let me look at the 3 of the 4 of you for a second. I think actually, I think maybe even he looks at your, he sees Galen's bandolier of petards and says, and says, How many Seathlanders do you think one of those can kill? Dropped from the walls onto as they try to climb with their siege ladders.
Sir, I can only tell you with confidence how many of them it can knock silly, which is to say a great many.
Is that 6? Is that 60? We don't know how many of them are out there, son.
I'll knock the entirety of Seathland silly before I kill one of these men.
Are you imparting a lesson there? You don't have to be. I'm just you were making a very bold statement, so I'm curious if you were trying to like.
It's just being defiant.
That was the question.
Yeah.
I think there is a lesson here, but like Galen is not entirely like this. It's sort of still forming for him.
Right,
you know?
yeah. So no is a perfectly fine answer.
Yeah, it's not a.
I think.
Yeah. So what he would actually say is I could knock the entirety of Seaplane silly, and then in a sort of muttered voice after that, which I would do before I kill one of these men.
Fighting them head on is clearly not the smartest option here. That we should be ready to trade blows valiantly if the situation requires it. We need some other way to deal with this. Caradoc, you spoke the most with the leader of our group of friends. Do you think we can offer them to their countrymen? Could we negotiate some kind of bargain?
I know that they are under threat by the Tower Perilous. Perhaps if we could get to negotiate a return, perhaps we could find a way of making it clear that we seek to war upon the Tower Perilous. That may get them to retreat from their current attack upon the I forget what kind of building, what kind of institution is this? Monastery. Right. I wasn't sure if it was monastery, abbey, whatever. Upon the monastery.
Then maybe we should consult the library, see if we can learn anything more about these creatures the Sealanders say have driven them away, that Marion says she's seen in her visions. More information could give us leverage.
You also do have you have some oracular bees.
We do have oracular bees. I mean, I'm up to take either or both approaches here. Yeah. I feel like slightly self-conscious about doing this in front of Matthias, but I do pull out my jar of bees and say, unless, Marion, you think we could learn more by consulting the bees.
Well, I think the bees appeared for a reason, and they certainly do have some special power. I mean, the very fact that they would have willingly made their way into your jar kind of suggests that these are no normal bees.
All right. Here's the question: who can use the oracular bees? Does this require Marion's oracular?
So what you learned, right? This is from
Marigold? No, Wolfhild. There we go.
Wolfhild, right. So what she told you, and what she told Marion, right, is that it is her gift that allows her to sort of read the messages in the bees. I think we can talk about a process for her to teach it to other people, perhaps when she figures it out, or I'm open to like figuring out a custom move of like. But I think at the moment, the person who can do it is Marion.
So yeah, what I do then is I'm going to just tell tell Marion how she fits in the story as I proffer her these bees, and I say, very well then. Just as the great warrior saint Charbon and his companions consulted with the prophetess Violetta, we will turn to you to read the bees and tell us the path we should walk. How can we save this monastery and avoid terrible bloodshed if at all possible? And I proffer the jar of bees dramatically.
Yeah. And, without hesitation, Marion takes the jar of tarnished silver bees and kind of holds the jar in front of her, kind of holds it up to the sun to see the sun kind of radiating through the jar. And she also kind of holds her ear to the jar to hear the vibrations of the buzzing, and then she will whisper to the bees and ask,
Why don't you roll search for truth?
okay,
Roll plus ingenuity, and then you can ask your questions
okay,
of the bees.
yeah. And I think I will mark hesitation is for the faint of heart and small of soul.
Sure.
I'm just leaping immediately into this for that advantage.
Sure.
And so that'll give me 3. And this is with ingenuity, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, which I think is, I think I'm 0 on my ingenuity. Yes, I am. So, but I get the advantage. So he'll see how this goes.
2 highest dice. And that is an 11 plus
Yes.
0 is 11. So you get 2 questions from the list.
All right. So, I'm going to ask, since it is our quest, I will ask what here can be used to locate the Tower Perilous.
So the answer is there's almost certainly something in the monastery library that will help you with that. Almost certainly. But spending time in the monastery library at this moment is a high risk kind of situation because there's stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then I will also ask what here is not what it seems to be.
What here is not what it seems to be. So one thing that you've been hearing a lot of now that is there's been sort of an ever rising beating of drums. That how many of you have been around for Seathlander raids? I know Olwen has. Has anyone else been present during a Seathlander raid?
Probably when Galen was a small child.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know if I've because we're at the heart of the kingdom, right? So we probably would have responded to them, but I don't know if I don't know how often the king would be on the borderlands specifically.
Right. Well, so the capital's on the coast, right? So they're probably not foolish enough to raid right in the capital, and even but this is only a couple of days ride out, right? And
yeah, I feel like yeah, I'm just saying I feel like we've
raid.
Responded to the Seathlander raids more than been the initial
attack.
Got it.
Marion, have you ever been around during a Seathlander raid?
I suspect not really a direct raid. I think she probably has seen Seathlanders before, but yeah, I don't think I've been in any kind of intense military. Yeah.
So there are two kinds of Seathlander raids. There's the kind on an unfortified village or a town, right? And these are the ones that they kind of prefer because they're easier, right? And then they're quiet, right? Sneak, get there as quietly as possible, come in, take what they want, with as little bloodshed as possible on either side because they don't want to die. But they also, the risks are pretty low. That's their ideal situation. But of course, those places tend to have slim pickings. So the second kind of Seathrander raid is on sort of richer towns, border towns, places, and in those they come out in more force. And in the time leading up, they'll often try to get themselves into a superior position surrounding a place or whatever. And then the drums are part of an intimidation tactic, right? To make it sound like that there are more of them than usual, or whatever. And I think the thing, so this seems normal for what you're experiencing here. I think what you pick, what the bees tell you, Marion, okay, is that there's something off with the drum beat. They're usually very strict, and you don't know this because you said you haven't really experienced it, but the bees are telling you, right, that some of the people on the drums, there's an almost like lack of humanity to the rhythm, right? It's so tight. And the other drums, right, that are like there's like a slight just the two sort of sets are they seem like they're together if you're not paying close attention, but some number of those drums are being beat by inhuman hands.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll add, the bees, according to the bees, the Seathlanders don't know it.
Yeah, so I think that this comes through to Marion, especially when like she's actually listening to that kind of buzzing sound, in the jar, and she hears the drums, and it is kind of, you see her puzzled look as she's kind of taking in, listening both to the buzzing of the bees with the sound of the drums, and is telling her companions, the sound is off. Not the sound of the bees, but the sound of the drums. There's something deeply wrong with the way that they thrum and vibrate, and it's not entirely. It doesn't seem entirely Seathlandish. It seems somehow warped. I think the bees, that's what the bees have seemed to be revealing to me, and it does seem as though they also are kind of giving me some indication that there's something in that chamber over there. And she's pointing to, she doesn't know what the chamber is, but she's pointing to the library, right? She says there's something that the bees are, pointing to, that's in that chamber.
Galen is going right to the door and going through to the left.
You're headed right into the library.
Yes.
Oh dear! Wait! You have to be careful in there. Sister Cuthbert has a very precise system, and you don't want to. Oh, don't grab that.
All right, so I'm going
Someone is
wanna
grabbing
be-
an Olwen, and it's me or it's the Sealanders.
I want to be really upfront here, because right, I tried to say this before too. I just want to be like clear about the choice that's happening here, right? You could split up, and someone can go in the library look for Castle Perilous stuff right now, and someone can go do. But like, if the Sealanders are not addressed, very soon, like something bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I think that Galen is like standing in the doorway of the library. And he's going to turn around to Olwen. He's going to say, "You've always been so much better at this than me. And if there's something that you've taught me, Olwen, it's that one ass can't ride on two horses.
What?
I can't be two things at once. After this, if we get out of this, I'm going to tell Sir Amelia that I quit."
That you quit squiring?
That's right.
But Galen, the realm needs you. The realm needs people who'll step up and fight against the evil that's out there.
I don't know how to use a sword, Olwen.
I mean, you've done great so far with your weird inventions. Like that was extremely cool that you beat a whole bunch of Sealanders with an exploding pumpkin.
I only had the one. I only packed the one exploding pumpkin, Olwen. I'm going to figure this out. Trust me to do what I can do. And I will trust you.
Okay. Everybody just needs to survive, and then we will work out this whole who's going to keep being a squire thing afterwards. Deal?
Olwen, don't be such a downer. Jeez. He turns and like disappears into the library.
Marion, Caradoc, do you think that what the bees are saying is these creatures, these abominations, have infiltrated the Sealanders, and the Sealanders don't know about it? Because that's what it sounded like to me.
Well, yes, I don't know exactly what this is that is affecting the sound of those drums.
You said inhuman hands.
Well, something non-Seathlandish is yeah. There's something about this that is suggesting some other force.
They've been fleeing these creatures, these walking dead. It must be what it is. And with this knowledge, are maybe those scouts would help us go to the Sealanders, have a look around, find these creatures, and strike back against them. Caradoc? Do you think we could get them to work with us?
I believe it might be possible.
So out of character, I think we can spin this into deliberately get captured as part of a plan. If we do the whole gambit, where we pretend some number of our Seathland captors our Seathland captives have captured us and are like escaping from the monastery with us, then we get to go to the Seathland camp and figure things out from there.
Okay, but I feel like you should probably bring up this plan with the rest of us rather than just like. do you think we can just ask them to help?
I'm laying out my vision out of character, and then we can drop back into character and see what happens.
Yeah, I think if Matthias hears your vision, you then lay it out. He says, Owen, your head has always been full of dreams and fancy. What about these Seathlanders that you've taken prisoner makes you think that pretending to be captured wouldn't turn into actually being captured?
I was inclined to think the worst of them too, but Caradoc had a conversation with their leader, and it seems like they're not just attacking to attack. They're acting out of fear, out of suspicion, and we may be able to combat those fears and allay those suspicions and work together.
I mean, he spreads his hands, like, this is your show, folks. But he turns to the rest of you and says, will you really follow your companion's madness?
I mean, I already yoked my decision to that horse earlier in the session. I trust Alwyn's wisdom.
A book goes flying out of the open library doorway, thrown over Galen's shoulder, and you hear him call, "I taught her everything she knows."
Oh no. She winces as the book hits the ground. It's physically painful to her.
In
spite of that, I still trust Alwyn's plan.
Okay, so I think the next scene is then convincing Bjorn and Troop to go along with this. So we'll do that. We'll take our second break. We'll cut to Galen in the library, and we'll see. Well, then, depending upon how all of that goes, we'll have the confrontation with the Seathlanders and whatever else may be out there with them. Okay. Yeah, so who's taking the lead as you go down to the, Matthias unlocks, Patricia was the person who was guarding them. So we send you down, Patricia frowns at you, but unlocks the door to the wine cellar. There's like a couple of candles. It's pretty dark in there. I think they've been given some food that they're eating, some like hardtack or something, some water to drink. Yeah.
So we have a proposal.
Okay. Owen's taking charge.
No, I'm not necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm just giving the lead in.
Yeah.
Maybe Marion should present it. Marion?
Marion says, I think what we need to do is to take them up to the fresh air where they can hear the sound of the drums. If they being Seathlanders, I think I can get them to hear that there is something deeply off with the sound of their own instruments.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you leave them up, right? It's now. I'm not gonna say it's quite obvious because you have to know what you're listening for, but there are more of that. More sort of like tighter, more mechanical, less natural sounding drum rhythm. As a percentage of it, and it's like they can certainly hear it right away.
Yeah,
And now that you're, I think anyone who's listening for it can hear it quite easily.
yeah, and Marion will say, I first caught the sound through a kind of auditory vision, a sound vision that I received. But it should be immensely clear now that those drums, they are, only partially Seathlandish now. There's something deeply disturbing that is taking hold of them.
Those creatures you fear, they're among your countrymen. We want to help, but we need you to get us to the Seathlander camp.
And one thing that I'm kind of aiming at is the into the gap move, which I think is normally maybe thought of in terms of an actual combat, with people's swords out. But when you place yourself between combatants and plead for peace,
sure. Yeah, I love that actually. I like it a lot. I do want to just clarify, there isn't, there may be a camp somewhere, right? But what's happening now is they have the place surrounded, right?
Sure. Yeah.
There isn't like one camp that they'd be leading you to.
We need to get to the drums.
Yeah. Or the leader or something. I'm not sure, right? Like the drums are everywhere. Right? You're surrounded by them, right? It seems to be like, presumably you want to find the leader who can call off the bat, and you can figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But Bjorn they can handle that for you, right? I don't think we have to worry about the logistics of that. You just have to get them on side. And I think that's great. The combatants are presumably the abbey and these the monastery and these and the Seathlanders with Bjorn as their representative. I think you can totally go ahead and roll that. I want to set stakes because it's not quite as clear in the circumstances as usual, right? So, right, the fleeting opportunity, right, is hit 10 plus. They're willing to by putting aside the quarrel for now is yes, we will go and deal with this situation together, right? Mm-hmm. On a 7 to 9, I think someone has an opportunity to roll, to offer them a sweetener through a boon, right? Yeah. So there's an additional roll there, and then on a miss, well, I'll tell you what happens.
Okay. All right, and I think I will be using my lesson, and. I just had it. A knight should realize that the world is inhabited by many who are not knights.
Sure, right? Not everyone has to live up to your standards or have your same code of honor or whatever it is. There's still people who.
Okay, and I think with that, and I'm rolling with courtesy, and I'm good with courtesy. So
great, and you've got advantage.
Right. So.
Not that good though.
Yeah. So
what did it come to?
I have a 5, and then with my courtesy, that would come up to a 7.
Yeah. So what Bjorn says is, that's all good and well, and something strange is going on out there, but how do I know? How do I know that you aren't going to just betray us, and that what's happening out there is on you as well, is also because of you. And
Okay.
let's cut to Galen.
Okay. Yeah.
Cut to Galen. So Galen, you're in the library.
Yes.
Tell me what you're doing. How are you trying to find this stuff about the Tower Perilous?
Well, there's a couple things that I'd like to try to do here, and I
Yeah.
don't know how quickly in how quick succession I can try.
Oh, let's start with one and we'll see where we're at.
I would like to take some time to root around in a place where supplies might be found, to fill my readiness track.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally do that. That will take some in-game time, right? You may want to save that for last if you have stuff you want to do more quickly.
Yeah,
Unless
well,
you
it's
want
better.
it depends on that.
It's better, I guess, for me to know what I'm doing than whether I have the pieces to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
in this case, I think I am, Eleanor of Briarhill has a library in her tower.
Sure.
It's maybe not as large as this one, and maybe a little bit stranger than this one, but it's a library nonetheless. And I would like to. I think that I'm just tearing through the library as fast as I can, trying to find any little reference to the Tower Perilous.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And as soon as I realize that a book doesn't have what I need, it is discarded hastily, but with care, Olwen.
Yeah, and the librarian is certainly like helping you here, sending you in the right direction, right? Like making sure. I imagine there's like, if this is a cartoon version of this, right? You're like, she's like pointing you somewhere, and you run over there, and you're like tossing books, and she's catching them and reshelving. It's like that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, the table. There's like a time lapse thing, and the table in the middle of the library is getting like progressively higher and higher stacks of books.
Exactly. All right, so go ahead and roll search for truth.
Okay. Let's see. I gotta open my dice. Here we go. So this is 2 dice
Plus ingenuity.
With ingenuity.
And then
And
you use one of your lessons.
I think so. And here's how I'm going to do it. So I have come across several references to the Tower Perilous, and they all seem to be contradictory to each other. And Galen is sort of going through. There's like a moment where he has to he has to sort of stop for a second. He says there has to be a logic to it. There has to be a reason. Something like the Tower Perilous isn't built without. The builder wants me to find it. The builder wants for it to be known or encountered.
Sure.
And I think that this is a true builder is never satisfied with less than perfection.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, mark it, and roll with advantage.
I will. 3 dice plus 1. Research montage. Let's go.
And that is a 7 plus 1 is an 8.
An 8. Okay.
So that is all you need. So you get one question. If you want, let's take our break. If you want to think about that question, and then we'll come back and do the answer. So let's take 5. Come back at 10 after.
Okay.
So Jesse, I dropped in the chat a link to a document that it's just the vows mechanic.
Yeah, I see.
Um,
I'm looking at them.
I expect, even if I expect we wouldn't like get deeply into this or anything, but I wanted it there in case someone like, notches in advance at the end and feels like this is a fun like flavor to lean into of I'm turning one of my lessons into a vow as like the last thing that happens in the series.
Yeah, well, the other thing is it's good because the vow, right? The vows are actually right the way the campaign progresses towards the castle as I'm looking at them. So that's also a nice bit of flavor for whatever answers Galen gets.
Yeah, precisely.
Because right, it's always been like this. What you got from what's his name already from Bjorn already was like, it's about the quest, not the place where it is, and the tower CQ is you whatever. I depending upon what question he asks, I have different answers. But
it takes us all kind of vowing to find it for the tower to manifest itself to us.
Yes. All right. Just give Steven a second, and then we'll hear the question. Oh, interesting. I'm actually looking at this a little bit differently.
Which part?
So, well, I mean, this is we don't have to have this conversation now, but I guess right. Looking at the vows, right? So your first vow is the vow of the quester. As soon as everyone makes that vow, you go to the tower, right?
Yeah.
Basically. Then the next two are more sort of like general, like you advance as a knight ones, right? And I was envisioning the campaign as a campaign for the questing for the tower, and the campaign ends when you get to the tower. But this sounds like the tower is actually like just the first thing that your first quest, really. And then there's like lots of other lots of other stuff going on.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth a little on that, but you're right that as written out, it kind of makes the tower a sort of initial impetus, and then eventually the characters kind of become knights and presumably have other quests.
Right, and there's like more integrated into the kingdom stuff, and which is very, very cool. It's just a slightly different version of the game than I had in my head.
I am back, just eating dinner.
Wonderful. Okay. So what is your question, Galen? You get two questions, but there's a dangerous attention or complicates your situation.
You're muted, Galen.
Oh.
What here can be used to reveal the Tower Perilous?
Oh, what here can be used to reveal the Tower Perilous? I mean, yeah, I think you find a book with a map. But it's not a geographic map. I mean, like it's almost conceptual, right? It's weird. Right, there's a tower, and then there's knights. But it's like first there's like a little baby in like a knight's helmet, and then there's like a picture of a kid holding a wooden sword, and then there's like a full someone clearly patterned as a squire, right? And there's like a like growing up, and it's like a series of it's almost like comic panels, right? Along a road, right? And that's why it's sort of a map, right? And so the first panel on top of the far left of the road, right, is a baby, right? And the tower is far off in the distance, right? And then as the tower gets closer and closer, and then in that final one, right, with the knight on the horse, right, you could see that the tower is on legs, and actually these big sort of spider legs, and it is actually approaching the knight, not the other way around. Or that they're both approaching each other, right? And the message, right, that you, as you're using it to find it, right, is that as you seek the tower and grow, so too it seeks you. And when you are worthy, you will find each other. When you have grown into your knighthood, right? It doesn't happen automatically. You need to seek it. But the way you, but in following the breadcrumbs, right, and growing as a knight, right, it wants to encounter, right, knights at the cusp, right, just having become into themselves.
And I've just taken the biggest step backwards possible, which is that I've announced my intention to deny my knighthood. Shit.
Sure. You get a second question.
Yeah, he's standing there in the library with the book in his hands. The librarian is still kind of like puttering around at like 1,000,000 miles an hour in the background, and his hands are just like shaking under the book. Where is my best opportunity to make a difference?
Where is your best opportunity to make a difference? So the answer to this is actually in the complication that's about to hit you. Because it's a funny thing, Marion and Caradoc and Alwyn, but you notice that somehow or another, at some point, Astrid has slipped away from the group. And then you hear a voice. First you hear a deep intake of breath as the librarian, and if you turn towards that deep intake of breath, you see there is Astrid. Her cuffs kind of singed, as you realize she had somehow or another managed to burn off her rope while held captive, and she took this opportunity to sneak away and get free. And she's come up with a knife. Somehow. Perhaps it was on her all along. Perhaps she was able to find it. And it's at the librarian's throat. And she said, I need a way out. And I need it fast, unaccented. She speaks better Castanish than Bjorn. I need a way out, and I need it now. And if I have to kill this this person to show you I'm serious, I will. And the way you can make the most difference here is to turn this situation around.
I mean, Alexei, you were looking to get taken captive as on purpose.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're going to cut back to the other group, who may or may not have noticed that that Astrid is gone now. I'll leave that up to you folks. But you've got to get Bjorn on side, right? I think I'm not gonna make you roll for this, right? But like I'm
happy. I haven't rolled yet. I'm happy to roll for it.
Oh, then if you want to roll for it, that's fine. Right? I want to get to because we're running out of time here. I want to get our big confrontation, but sure.
I think I can take a crack at this. I say, look, you know, I wasn't inclined to trust you, but I trust my friends. I trust Marion and her insights. It's important we work together. So we'll release two of your companions out a secret way if you come with us, pretend to have captured us, and get us over to where those drums are sounding so we can expose these creatures for what they are. That's what we both want to do. Can we make a deal? And I'm gonna roll this as beseech a boon.
Yeah,
I
roll plus courtesy.
I get advantage from the previous offer encouragement.
Yep.
And I'm gonna tap a lesson for double advantage, namely heroes never let warnings or threats dissuade them, because I was specifically told not to do this by by someone. So we're gonna see how this goes as I beseech this boon. Rolling it, I'll take the two highest. The two highest are a 10, baby.
They are.
Which doesn't force its hand, but you can see it says they must grant the boon if they can, or if they cannot, lay bare their heart about exactly why.
I mean, he'll do it, and
Nice.
here's what he says. He says, but it's somewhere along. He says, the only way to make this work, there's no pretending. Right? There's no us tied up, pretending you're tied up, one of you not tied up, right? The only way we'll go, you've got me. I'm convinced there's something happening out there that's not right. But you and that this is not quite this. This is sort of like them laying bare, like this is why they can't grant the boon as you described it, right?
Yeah.
Like this is an I think on a 7 to 9 you'd have to get hurt too.
Yeah.
But you need to we'll have your weapons. You won't, but you'll have to come out clearly bound by us.
I'll do it. And I'll look to the other two.
Yeah,
Will you come with me?
Nod.
Marion will, nod. Yes.
All right. I think this is when, as like the bonds are being switched, you all notice that Astrid is not there.
Oh, saints and devils! Where's your young angry one?
What?
There's only 5 of you here.
She's always hot-headed. She'll kill someone. No compunction. You're the enemy. You have her trapped. She not only will she do it, she will be in the right to do it in her mind, and honestly, probably in mine. She doesn't know. I think she will kill someone if it's what it takes to get her out of here. Cut to Galen and Astrid. And the librarian, I guess.
Yeah,
I'll wager that you are feeling mighty foolish right now.
Blood appears on the neck of the librarian. I am not kidding.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. You signed up to be a valiant raider, and you've gotten yourself into this mess. You got yourself knocked out by an exploding pumpkin.
Next words out of your mouth are directions, or she's dead.
All right.
And I mean, they don't have to do directions, right? But you have to make your play here, right? She's not joking.
He's stepping up to her, and he's saying, he's sort of unloosing the the belt of petards. He's holding it in his hand,
Mhm.
and he says, "Ask yourself which one would let you face your comrades again with a straight face. The head of an elderly librarian, or the head of a knight? Come on, Astrid, do it. Come on. You should have paid attention to your friend Bo. I'm the type to go all in on a foolish bet.
Are you trading yourself for the librarian? Is that the offer here?
No, I'm goading someone into going after me using teasing or taunts.
Oh, great. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Roll plus cheer.
I'm rolling plus cheer, and I have abandon, which means I have a dark advantage.
Sure. Love it.
And yeah, he's so in one hand he's got this sort of belt of petards, and the other hand he's like opening the top of his shirt to expose his breast.
Yeah.
I love how foolhardy this is.
This is amazing. I love this.
So this is, yeah, let's see. Cheer is, in my case, 2. So I'm rolling 3 dice and a plus 2. Okay. That is an
8
8.
plus 2 is 10. Oh, 6 plus 2 is 10. Oof. That's
6
still
plus 6 plus
6
2
plus
is
2
8.
is 8. They
Yeah.
they force you to stand and face them. Undergo an ordeal if they try to disengage before they're willing to release you. So she charges, shoves the librarian to the side, right? And just like comes at you with the knife. How do you defend yourself?
He is pulling out. He's got like he's basically made a set of like trench knuckles that have like blasting powder on the knuckles. So when he connects, there will be like a big pop and like a blinding flash. So he's gonna try to like stun her or blind her or some other different kind of incapacitation here.
Yeah, this sounds like do battle.
Mhm.
I think you're using your move, right? So you're spending your last readiness to have this weapon.
That's right.
Yep. So I think that definitely gives you advantage.
Okay.
On the roll, that tool. And roll plus
valor, right?
Roll plus valor, yeah.
Okay. Library fight. Here he goes. 3 dice plus 1 is an 8.
7, 8. 8's pretty good. You each pick one from the list. We trade blows. You trade blows in fierce combat. You take your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to shield another from harm.
So you should, because of your taunt move.
Yeah.
Right. The librarian's not in any danger. Right.
Oh,
She's
okay.
focused on you. Right.
Well,
you earned that with your move.
Well then, I fight deliberately and impart a lesson to my foe as if I had spent too hard.
All right. So what she's going to do is press the attack and inflict additional harm. And I think what that means here is you're going to take 2 tarnishes.
Okay.
That's the additional harm until the right. And so pick the 2 tarnishes you take. And tell me the lesson you want to impart. And then we'll cut away if she resists it.
Oh, it's so difficult to like phrase it in like a pithy way, you know.
Mm-hmm. You want to think about it while we cut away? Well, I think we actually have to resolve this because they know that she's missing now. So let's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oh, there's something here about like I want to play on a thing is not always what it seems,
Mhm.
but this is something about like a moment of true colors or like a watershed or something.
Mhm. I think it's worth saying, right? The one harm you do, the one tarnish you do to her,
Yeah.
is enough to win the fight.
Yeah.
So you're doing, I think it's fair to tell you that at this point. So you're sort of imparting a lesson to a defeated
Sure.
foe.
No,
or whatever that-
the lesson is no person is expendable.
Yeah. So you hit her and the little mini explosion goes off. Bright light. She's knocked back. Again you get me with your trickery. And what do you say to her? How do you try to impart this lesson?
Um, I think that he says, there's no laughter in death. And I have not yet had my fill. Have you?
She grimaces and she says, like, cause this is no, I think it's fine.
Yeah, you get to decide. Are you accepting this lesson or not?
Yeah, but she's gonna accept the lesson, but she grimaces. This is a hard lesson for her to learn. This is a hard lesson for her to learn, and you can tell. And she says, I've always thought it's safer to have a dead enemy in front of you than a live enemy behind you. But maybe you're right. And sometimes not everybody has to be an enemy. And better a live friend behind you than a dead enemy in front of you. Something like that. And she like reaches up to take your hand.
How about a friend?
Wonderful. Someone, the librarian's holding a handkerchief to her scratched neck, and she's like, "Excuse me." So I think let's cut to the two of you coming out of the library. Right, we're heading towards our final sort of big scene here.
Can we say like the rest of us have like rushed around briefly trying to
Find Astrid,
Astrid before she kills someone, and we find the two of them. We're like, oh, thank goodness no one's hurt. Come on, pretend she's captured you. We need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to hear from each of you, starting with Marion. We're just going to go right to Let's across the character keeper, reverse character keeper order. Like, how do you show that you're a captive? Like, what's the sort of key sign that you've submitted that everyone can see as you're walking out of the monastery? I do think actually some of them stay back, right? Because there have to be. I think it's just the three, Bo, Bjorn, and Astrid, who come out with you. The other three, because right, they've taken the monastery, right? There needs to be someone in there to hold those captives.
Yeah, so I think the sign that Marion is captive is because they required us to give up our weapons, and I have that overly large, heavy sword.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Bo is like, as we come out, he has it in his hand, and it fits him perfectly, right? I mean, he has even maybe a little grin on his face as he's like, testing out the weight and clearly much better, more formidable sword than the one he was carrying.
Awesome. Galen.
Yeah, Galen, I think the two tarnishes mean that Galen's like one of his arms is like hanging a little limp at his side.
Sure.
And so Astrid is having to help him like empty all of his pockets and satchels and things of all of his like clever little toys. And she's just like dropping them behind her, and from you can sort of trace where they've walked by like, you know, bits of things that are emitting sparks and smoke. And here, you know, I think there's probably at least one little wind up animal that is like, you know, crawling off into the grass or something. So it's just this like trail of detritus behind them as like more and more things come out of his seemingly endless pockets.
Sure. Caradoc.
Sorry, could you remind me the question?
Just like, what's the sign that you are like have submitted? And it can be a false sign, right? But like, how are you showing them that that you've submitted?
And I'm forgetting where. Yeah, I think that I'm almost imagining that I had like some kind of symbol that represented my service to the king. I think like a cape or something like that had the king's sign on it. I think that's been torn off.
Great. And Olwen.
I think Olwen is like sort of relishing the like dramatic opportunities of this. So I think she like went like beyond anything that was asked of her, and like dunked her head in the font so she would be all bedraggled as she's coming out, and like has like smeared some dirt on her face and clothes, and like maybe like bit her cheek so that she could have a little like trickle of blood coming out of the corner of her mouth, right? Like she's just like really committed to selling this "we've been captured" disguise.
Yeah. So the drums keep up as you're sort of marched out into. And I don't know how I kind of described this a little bit, but I don't think I did a great job on the way in. So right there's this fortified abbey, right, with a big gate. It's surrounded on all sides by the forest, right? But the area, there's probably like a solid, I don't know, 100 to 150 yards kept clear between the abbey and the edge of the trees, right? Specifically, so that like people can't sneak up on them, and it gives them, right, like clear shots at invading people, right? It's a defensive thing, right? So there's no moat or anything, but there's like this big sort of open area 360 degrees around the abbey, in order and so you're walking out into through this cleared area, and Bjorn calls out something in Seathlander, and the drums don't stop, but a very tall woman, sort of older, gray hair. You'd probably pin her around, not in her early 50s, older than you. She is in kind of light armor. She's not wearing a helmet at the moment. She has an entirely fur-lined cape, not just the sort of like edges of the others, or even of Bjorn. So steel gray hair, piercing blue eyes. She has a large axe strapped to her back, and she's flanked by two guards with large swords on either side of her. And she and Bjorn have a quick conversation. And then she says I actually think she doesn't in a very, very like a thickly accented as Bo, very thick accent, but she does speak your language. She says, Bjorn says you have something important to tell us, prisoners.
Folks, you okay if I take a crack at something, at a swing here? Okay. I have a story for you. It's a story about Saint Gehenna. Once upon a time, there was a young boy struck down far before his time, and Saint Gehenna decided to do something about it. So when death came, riding on his black horse, wearing his black armor, she challenged him and crossed swords with death himself. And being Saint Gehenna, she of course prevailed. And death yielded and asked for mercy. And Saint Gehenna said she would let him ride away if he left his armor. And that armor of death was forged into the bells of this monastery. And when those bells are rung, creatures that have crawled out of the realm of death are forced to show themselves for what they are. And I'm using my heart move here to claim a story with enough force to reshape the environment. And the idea is like as she finishes the story, the like bell, sound of the bell like peals out from the monastery, because that's what they told Matthias to do when he saw them meet up with the Seathland leader. Does that work for us?
It definitely does something. I'm trying to decide what exactly. You've earned it. Like that's super fucking cool. So let me lay out the situation. I think the first thing that happens is the drums stop beating. Mm-hmm. And then you hear some shouts and some rattles. And then just silence. And the queen says, what? And then, from out of the words, I called her a queen, but I don't know that she's necessarily a queen. Her name, I'll give you her name though. Her name is her name is Brun. Where did I write it down? Brunhilder. Yeah. Good queenly name, she's important. I don't know if they have queens. I haven't thought about it. But I think it's just like half a dozen. And they're not all together because some of them are coming from around the other side of the monastery, right? But moving slowly, 3 to either side coming towards you. 7 and 1 from behind the queen, the Brunhilde and her entourage are soldiers. They seem like soldiers, but as they get closer, their skin is some of them are skeletal. The ones that do have skin, it is sallow and sunken. Their eye sockets glow blue, and they're decked out. Their clothes are tattered, but all of them wear bracers of tarnished silver. All of them wear bracers of tarnished silver. And one of them rasps as it comes out. Caradoc, remind me, do you have a family name?
Oh boy, I never came up with one.
Then forget a family name for a second. Did your parents have a title? Did either of your parents have a title?
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry, I guess let's see. What do we have here? What about Sorry, it's stuff I should have had on thought of, but I don't really I guess
would you like to be
does
a
anyone have an idea? Because
would you like to be a
I'm little
marquis?
blank.
Would you like to be a marquis?
Sure, Marquis. Let's go with
Marquis Caradoc. You were told that we would come for you. We are here. All of you. Of all of you of Castity, we have felled your enemies. Let us take the rest with us, and we will go in peace. I think Bjorn gives you a look. Not Owen, Marion, right? Marion was the one who persuaded it. Well, the two of you together, right? And before very quickly cutting all of your bonds and handing over your weapons, right? You can betray them, but I think he knows that he's not getting out of this without your help one way or the other. So you might as well be free and hope you're good for it, right?
I honestly did not anticipate the undead were going to make a pitch to us. It's like, are we going to fight with the Seathlanders against the undead, or fight with the undead against the Seathlanders?
I think. Well, I mean,
I will tell you, Caradoc, this place is deeply touched
Caradoc
by Shadow now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you should know that. Just to be clear, Shadow is right here.
but it's carefully investigate. I don't know if I'm in a position to carefully investigate right
Totally
now.
Fair. Just throwing that out.
I do Caradoc doesn't need to. That's not a question for Caradoc. Caradoc takes up the blade and says, "I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for whatever it is, whatever sorcery has warped you into what you have become. But you say you have felled our enemies, yet I see that you are the one that my enemy stands before me." And I point the blade at her.
Do you just want to take a swing? Do you just want to go for it?
Oh sure, if that's an option, I guess I can, yeah.
Yeah, you totally can with your sin spear, right?
Yeah.
I love. Yeah. Okay. I think she has like a big kind of I'm picturing something stupid that I love.
I gotta hear what this is.
This is like a Warcraft. I've never even played Warcraft, but I play Hearthstone, and I think this is a cool sword that's a Hearthstone weapon. So it's Frostmourne. It is this big fucking two-handed. It's not actually glowing blue, but it looks like that big fucking undead sword.
Yeah.
Wow, Jesse, I really didn't think you were gonna hit us with the Frostmourne rep.
Look, I know. We're up against the Lich King apparently, or the Lich
Yeah.
Queen.
I said it was something stupid, but it carries the atmosphere for this moment.
We got to do it. Got to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing battle. I'm rolling plus valor, but fortunately I have a advantage die, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
Actually, I have two
you're
advantage
wrathful.
dice because I have not used my
Yeah,
I
your
have
other
not
advantage
rolled
die.
yet
Correct.
since my encourage. So let's see.
Remember, the far right is the dark advantage die, not
Okay.
higher.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So
9.
That's a 10.
No, I have -1 valor.
That's a 9. Okay. Anyone helping?
Oh, yeah. I'll spend a heart to help because we could push that up to a 10, right?
Correct.
Like you
Are
charge
you
in.
though? I was just hearing like from you that like do we want to fight these?
But you know
And
what?
fighting
When Caradoc charges, Olwen's gonna follow
Okay.
because you act without doubt and you will never know regret. That's the lesson you taught me.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I will join the battle.
So how do you help? What do you do? Do you call out the best in her? Sorry.
Yeah, no, like Caradoc, lead us to victory. We're behind you, and I'm charging at the undead as well.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and that becomes a 10. So on a 10 on do battle, you trade blows in fierce combat. On a 10 plus, pick 2 from the list.
Okay. Ooh. Let's see. I feel like I could accomplish something with this.
Right. And I think this has everyone has sort of formed a circle around you. I think this has sort of become like a battle by champion in some ways. We'll see how the rolls go, but also just because it's late and I want us to have time for epilogues.
Yeah, I think I press the attack and inflict additional harm to my foe. And
Describe what that looks like.
I think Caradoc is like this is like the moment where Caradoc is fighting, recklessly and with abandon, like with little regard for my own safety. Because I don't think I'm definitely not picking I keep my guard up and deflect or redirect some of their blows.
Yeah.
That's just happening. Because I think the other thing I'm taking is like for when I impart a lesson, does it need to be one of the lessons I have, or is this like any lesson?
I think imparting a lesson has to be one of your lessons.
All right, I'm gonna
we haven't been playing it that way, right? Because
I'm gonna straight up. I'm gonna impart the lesson. The first step to healing is acknowledging one's wounds as the other thing. Because sure. I say, as I'm fighting, I can see that you are in pain. That this is all. That there can only be one thing that binds the dead to the earth, because there is nothing left for you here.
Sure.
All that is left here is your pain.
So
are you accepting that or resisting it?
Oh, 100% resisting it. You're gonna mark a tarnish because we exchanged blows.
Yes, I know. I just wanted to make clear.
I love that. I'm very excited to roll some dice. Resisting that lesson. Not defy. I have to find. Here's this lesson. All right. 2d6 flat. It's always fun to get to roll dice at a
2d6 -2.
Oh, -2. Well, I rolled a 6. So On a 6-, the words overcome your resistance. Mark a tarnish and record their lesson as a temporary lesson. Tell the GM how they got past your defenses. Here is what happens, right? Because this also, right? So this also, right?
Because I'm also dealing extra harm.
Right. So this is that actually marks the 3rd tarnish. So these are the 3 tarnishes. I'm going to tell you this because this is fun. The 3 tarnishes that this Lich Queen, I guess, has, this Lich Lieutenant, Lich General has, are cold. So you marked all 3 in this one-do battle, right? Cold, focused is the wrong word for this. Tunnel vision.
Hmm.
And then the 3rd one is the third one is which triggers because of the lesson specifically. And I hadn't actually assigned because the 3rd, it doesn't really matter the 3rd one, right? Because then they're just out. So it can affect the role playing a little bit. But the 3rd one is actually wounded.
Hmm.
Right, I think that's right. And I think what like they drop the sword. She drops the sword. And these skeletal hands flex. And she says, "Oh, you can't hurt me. We cannot be harmed by you." And she raises her hands and she says, "Back. It seems Cassidy does not want our aid after all. Perhaps we can find other ways to make ourselves useful."
Hmm.
And they turn and march away. Is anyone going to do anything as they're marching away? Remember, there's a bunch of dead Seathlanders, like 20 dead Seathlanders out there or more. A lot of people just died. I think you can see. I don't know that anyone's quite realized what's happened, but like over the next hour, right, as becomes clear what's happened, there's going to be some angry Seathlanders. There's going to be some stuff that has to get worked out. As you watch them walk away, does anyone do anything, say anything, or is this sort of the last image before epilogues?
For once, Galen's out of jokes.
That was wild, by the way. I was not expecting 3 tarnishes to rack up so quickly.
Yeah, see, you shouldn't have resisted. I mean, she does have that lesson now.
Yeah.
I do look at her like, with the harm you've done, the least you can do on the path to healing, to redemption for yourself from whatever state you are in, is to offer those here a proper funerary rite, to lay them to rest before you as honored foes, rather than simply as cattle to be slaughtered.
He turns back and says, "I am in no need of healing or help." She's got that lesson, right? She knows that in order to heal, she needs to acknowledge her wounds.
I thought that I was the jokester around here. That's a good one, lady.
But she refuses to heal. I think that's where, like, you've got this hook, but it's you need to push on it. I don't know that. I think this is a long-term thing that we may not
that's
get
fine.
to see.
We can.
Yeah.
Just to check, were you offering another heart to invoke that lesson?
Oh.
Because when you invoke a lesson someone holds, offer them 1 heart. If they follow the course of action you're suggesting, and NPCs must mark a tarnish if they turn down the offer.
But
right?
I mean, they're already filled up on tarnish.
Well, yeah, right. And so
she's stuck. She has to listen, right? It's
okay. I'll invoke the heart. Yeah, I have 1 heart. 1 heart left. There we go.
For the marquee, we will make it so. And I think you do need to sign that this lesson, like, the lesson is a part of it, right? I think that's important here too. She says, perhaps, perhaps doing you this favor will help bring you back into the fold and make me whole once more. Acknowledging her wound and, in her twisted way, hoping that and they're there burying the dead. It's weird, right? I mean, I feel like there's a world in which there's an opportunity to try and do something to them here, but I think everyone's tired and hurt. And I do, I'm and I think that there's sort of like a tacit truce, because they could, if they all wanted to, they could hurt you all pretty badly. And okay, with that, let's move to epilogues. The game, there's an epilogue mechanic, which I love. When you reach the end of your time and reflect on your adventure, roll plus notches. No matter the result, narrate an epilogue scene, perhaps confronting a test or challenge in the tower. 10 plus, narrate a scene where a lesson you've learned helps. 7 to 9, narrate a scene where the lesson you've learned helps you narrowly avert a dangerous threat. On a miss, narrate a scene where a lesson you learned leads you astray and into jeopardy. And is there anyone who wants to go first? I'm not going to pick people, or I can pick someone if people want me to.
Oh, I can go ahead and roll.
Okay.
Plus
notches.
So the notches I have right now, or do we do this? Do we do this after we answer our end of session question, or before?
Jesse, I'd say
I wasn't mostly just because it's already 11. I wasn't going to do end of session. I kind of want to.
What if we just answer the question but don't do the lesson part of it? Because then there's the chance for.
Because I just want to see, because I'd mark a notch if you help someone who seemed like an enemy.
That's totally fair. Take a look at your question. Go ahead and mark a notch if you've answered it.
Yeah. That is a 7.
It's a 7. So go ahead and narrate a scene in which you narrowly escaped due to one of your lessons. And you can give like a context and framework for it, so that's like fully epilogue-y, right? Not just a single scene.
Yeah, no, I think that there's like I think we see this moment where this period where Caradoc ventures forth into the lands now held by the Tower Perilous. And I think there is a moment where, like, we see like more of the battles against the dead. But I think there is a point at which Caradoc realizes that the blade that like blades cannot harm the dead, for they're beyond the answer of steel. That it's only through addressing the pain that binds them to the world that the Tower Perilous feeds upon, that I'm able to like survive the battles against them.
Very cool. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Great.
I'm rolling plus notches. In my case, I have 4 notches. Oh wait, no, I ticked up, didn't I?
Did you get an advance?
I did not actually get an advance.
Wait. Did you
Did get
create
an
a
advance.
pragmatic solution to a difficult problem?
Oh, let me be clear.
You did get.
I got enough notches to get an advance. I have not gone and picked out an advance.
Okay. If you want to take roll +5 instead of +0, that is fine.
Yeah, I'll roll +5. Sure.
That helps.
Here we go.
The stakes are not high here from my
Yeah,
perspective.
I rolled a 15.
All right. Yeah.
So let's see. I should
Narrate an epilogue scene, perhaps of confronting a test or challenge in the Tower Perilous, but really, whatever thing that makes sense for you. And then narrate a scene where a lesson you've learned helps you to exemplify knighthood and inspire others. If you want, I know you were sort of on the fence about knighthood. So if you want, if you want to talk about how your lessons took you in another direction, that you feel was, exemplary, I think that's totally cool. Or you could say this brought you back into knighthood, and however you want to play it, but it's up to you.
I think this is maybe a day in later spring or maybe even early summer, and let's say later spring, and Galen is down at the we said that the capital city is by the sea, right? So Galen is down in the harbor, and he is wearing a cloak of blue, and someone someone out of the frame is like calling for him to come along, to hurry up, and he is continuing to say, just one more moment, and then a ship is coming into the harbor, and his father is disembarking. Galen is going up to him, and I think for a moment he's unrecognizable. He's grown since the last time his father saw him, and he's wearing this kind of strange robe. And I think Galen is calmly explaining to his father that rather than becoming a knight, he's decided to travel the world with Eleanor of Briar Hill. He is putting a hand on his father's shoulder, and he says, "Not every investment can pay out. Don't play dice with people's lives."
Ooh.
Love it. All right, Marion or Olwen?
Okay, so I've got something. It's kind of a couple steps here because I am marking a notch for called out the best in someone. I think there's arguments for a couple of moments when that has happened in the session, including with Caradoc. And then I'm taking the advance because I want that as part of the flavor here. And so saying that Olwen has taken the vow of the quester and vowed to to complete this quest, to find the tower, and turn my lesson, heroes never let warnings or threats dissuade them, into I vow never to let warnings or threats dissuade me. And that all being said, I'm going to roll, and I'm going to roll flat because I've cashed in the advance. So we'll see what the dice say about the tone of this epilogue. The dice say a 7. Okay.
7 is not bad. Narrow escape.
Bad. Okay. I had a better idea for a failure on this. Let's see. A scene where a lesson you've learned helps you narrowly avert a dangerous threat. I think, it's in the realm of the Tower Perilous, right? The lands kind of under its shadow, where all manner of dark things dwell. And Olwen is like marching ahead and kind of bushwhacking with her sword a little bit into this overgrown grotto, right? This swampy cave, right? And there's just everywhere signs that you should turn back, right? Like, skulls by the side of the road, and like runic warnings posted. But she has set her brow, and is charging ahead, right? And we see, I think, like, we end on an image that's like kind of like classic St. George and the Dragon style. Some horrible serpentine beast is in this cave, and like it's coiled around an innocent villager, and Olwen is charging forward, calling on Saint Johanna as she does her, tries to cleave this beast in two. So, not being dissuaded by threats puts her in a position to maybe save someone from this monstrosity, and that's where we'll leave her in the midst of her quest.
Amazing. And Marion.
All right. So Marion, I have 3 notches
Great.
to roll with. Yep. And so we'll see what the dice say.
It's a 10. 13.
Yeah. So 13. All right. So let me go back to narrated epilogue. Narrate a scene where a lesson you've learned helps to exemplify knighthood and to inspire others. I think maybe my epilogue is it's actually just part of the kind of final scene, and it's a scene with Astrid, who still has rage and anger on her mind, and she is while while that conflict with Caradoc occurred, and then the aftermath of that, she despite the fact that that this enemy is going to kind of depart, I can Marion sees that, she's not going to let that stand. She's going to take it on her own to go charging. And Marion, you see Marion, this is kind of off to the side, right? This is going to be a surprise secret attack, right, that Astrid was going to make. But Marion intervenes, initially physically, kind of intervenes to stop Astrid from going to her death, and what would be a kind of suicidal, right, action. And the lesson I'm imparting is maybe it's the knowledge even of misfortune is a priceless gift, and it I mean, I think Astrid kind of realized that she's not going to be able to do this because physically I'm holding her down, but then I'm just saying, you must live to fight another time. And I understand the kind of rage. I too see your fallen comrades who are here, and I realize the tragedy and the mourning that you are experiencing, but you have your life. You should embrace your misfortune and acknowledge it, but you should take that and do something with it. And what you do with it should not be simply giving up your life senselessly.
That's great. All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks to anyone who watched and enjoyed this this series. And we'll now bid farewell to our characters and end this recording. I should remember how to do that. There's a button for it.